Hi, I'm Richard Vague with Tycos. So here we are in May of 2025, and all the remnants of student loan forbearance that came to help those during the pandemic are now effectively gone. And with that, we are now seeing warning signs in student loan credit quality. It's something that's getting a lot of headlines right now. The current repayment rate among borrowers, the percent of loans where these student loan borrowers are actually making payments, stands at only about 38%, significantly below the roughly 58% repayment rate seen before the pandemic. More importantly, the delinquency rate before the pandemic was in the range of 11 to 12%, and with all of the forbearance programs that were put in place, it dropped all the way down to 1%, which is where we see it today at this moment. However, this 1% is misleading. Biden's administration instituted a grace period where delinquent accounts were not allowed to be reported to credit agencies, and any accounts that went beyond 30 days delinquent would be reset to current, which obviously resulted in a near zero 90-day delinquency rate. This grace period came to an end in September of last year, and Fed data is only updated through December of last year. Therefore, the actual 90-day delinquencies would not be reflected in the data. That's why we still see it at near zero. However, we know from the Fed data with some certainty that as of September 2024, the actual 90-day delinquency, if it had not had that reporting dispensation, had vaulted all the way back up to 13%, so actually a little bit above the historical rate. Adding to these challenges, the Biden administration's very lenient SAVE repayment plan has been effectively paused due to recent court rulings. In response, Republicans have proposed a new, less generous repayment plan that would alter repayment terms, particularly for lower-income borrowers. The proposed change from the new repayment plan, including payments would begin from the first dollar earned, removing SAVE's income exemption. Borrowers earning around $33,000 who have previously paid nearly zero under this SAVE program will now pay approximately $82 per month. For borrowers earning up to about $100,000 with undergraduate loans, monthly payments could increase significantly, ranging from about $100 to $550 more per month compared to under the SAVE program. These proposed changes, of course, are aiming to reduce the government costs, but that's accomplished by shifting increased financial burdens onto borrowers, especially lower-income individuals, at the very moment that delinquency rates are skyrocketing. All of these developments are significant since student debt has tripled as a share of the economy, rising from roughly 2% of GDP in 2003 to about 6% today, with 42.7 million borrowers in a country with a population of 340 million. A sharp increase in defaults today thus carries far greater consequences for individual households and the broader economy than it would have in previous decades. So, given these, gathering clouds forming around student debt, let's take a quick peek at the other major categories of household debt: mortgage, credit cards, and auto. If we exclude that period of the global financial crisis, which had exceptionally high rates, of course, if you take that out of consideration and look at the highs in the period prior to that, you can see that credit card and auto delinquency rates are at or near their 20-year highs. Mortgage delinquency rates are still a little bit lower than those highs, but they've been rising now for 4 years. None of that is terribly alarming, and households seem fine, but it does show that they are at kind of the north end or the uncomfortable end of the historical range. But a look at delinquencies is only an incomplete look at the financial state of households. So let's take a quick peek at household net worth, which is total household assets minus their debts. As you can see, the rich have gotten much much richer, but not so for lower level household segments, in particular those in the 0 to 20% quintile and the 20 to 40% quintile. Their net worth to GDP has hardly budged. And we get a similar story when we look at income. And those lower segments are where the real risk to the economy is. It's not the top 10% that drive the broad economy, it's the millions of households in the middle to lower segments. They are in okay shape by historical standards, but their delinquency is the high end of the acceptable range, and their net worth and income have been stagnant for decades. Now, this would be an acceptable status in normal circumstances, but the Trump administration is in the process of turning the entire economy upside down, and most of the families in the U.S., as we've just seen, are not in a position to withstand much bad news. So, where we would normally be somewhat sanguine about the status of consumers, instead, given what the future holds in the not too distant future, our outlook for households is one of concern. That's it for this week.